You ready? Okay. Hey guys, it's Ashley here.
And Brittany.
This is the Murder Mukbang Show. We are back after being gone for a couple weeks.
Like, we were on a hiatus, you guys.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
We had quite a few things going on. I had surgery,
Stupid COVID. And
snow.
Yeah.
It's been a crazy last month.
So, we're back tonight, and we're talking about a case that takes place in Canada. So, for our meal tonight, we're doing poutine.
Yeah.
And so what it is cheese curds, brown gravy over French fries.
I've never had it before.
I've never had it before either. I've heard it's pretty good,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
I've watched a lot of mukbang channels with people eating poutine, and I don't know, it looks delicious.
Okay. So we'll find out if it is. And then we have a delicious blueberry angel food cream cheesecake.
My favorite.
Yeah, it's good. So let's get started with our case. And it's about Karla Homolka and Paul Bernardo. So you all probably have heard of them here recently in the news because Karla, I think recently just was in the news and got out of prison, and she changed her name, and,
She got 3 kids now.
yeah. So, they're pretty terrible people. So I'm just going to say that. Having fun
man,
with
I
it?
made a mess.
Oh, that's okay. That's why we have paper towels. All right, so I'm going to start with the story and the back story of Paul Bernardo. He was born in 1964 in Scarborough, Canada. And when Paul was born, he was born with a abnormality of his tongue, where it was stuck to the bottom of his mouth, so he couldn't learn to speak or anything like that. He suffered until he was probably the ages of 4 or 5. He was still using grunts and certain noises to indicate that he wanted something. And so, he did spend a good deal of his childhood in silence, which those are your formative years. So if you can't even communicate properly, kind of makes you wonder if you're going to turn into a psychopath or something,
Yeah.
Yeah. How is it?
It's really good.
Good.
Yeah.
Can't wait to try it. So then on top of that, his father was extremely abusive, but more so to his wife, Paul's dad. I think I keep calling him Paula. Have I said that yet?
No.
Because when I was studying these, I kept mixing Karla and Paul. And I made Paula. So that's their celebrity name.
Yeah, we can refer to them like that with their relationship name,
Right.
Their couple name.
Yeah.
Like Brangelina.
Right. Exactly. I think we should do that. So
Paula.
There we go. Not only was he abusive to Paul's mom, he also sexually abused his 9-year-old daughter. And another young girl. So Paul grew up thinking, that this is how men acted. Like a lot of serial killers and psychopaths that we talk about, they see one thing and this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So his mom, Paul's mom and him had a pretty good relationship. But that all changed when she confessed to Paul that Kenneth was not his actual father. And so that's kind of when he started to turn against his mom. And he kind of would go off the rails on her, tell her that, she was a fat cow and she was a slob, and just say demeaning things that he heard his stepfather call her.
And you would think that if you found out that a really gross man that molests little girls was not actually your dad, you would be happy about it. He was not happy about it. He was extremely upset, and it affected him a lot.
Yeah. I mean, naturally, it would. I mean, if that's who you know and who you think is your father, then, I mean, because he was like, what, 16 when that happened?
Yeah. I don't know. So I feel like I would be thankful that he wasn't my dad.
Yeah, I think so too. So, later on in like middle school, and beginning to go into high school, Paul started to have extremely perverse sexual fantasies. To the point where he like had told his friends that he had dreamed of owning a farm. What did he call it? He called it a virgin farm, where he would have stalls for all of his virgins whom he could have at any point, you know, and whenever he wanted. And so, like, that's just kind of disgusting.
Yeah.
You know, that
thinking about women as objects and that, you know.
Right. Like, that to me is like, you know, somebody saying that there's going to be 40 virgins waiting for them in heaven. Like, no. Like, that's just it's weird. It's just weird that you want to take somebody's innocence, you know? Yeah. So, anyways, he wanted to have brutal sex, and he definitely liked having it with young girls. The violence and humiliation just thrilled him completely. Like, he just, that's what he got off on. So eventually his sick little fantasies and even causing, like, brutally having sex with somebody, not raping them, but just having rough, aggressive sex, that wasn't enough for him. So when he was in high school, or when he graduated high school, he became known as the Scarborough Rapist in May of 1987. So, yeah.
1987, that's when I was born.
That was a year after I was born, so, you know.
All right, so his, the Bonnie to his Clyde, Miss Karla Homolka, was born May 4th, 1970 in Ontario, Canada. She had a little bit different upbringing. Like, she actually had a really good upbringing. She was a really kind, happy child at first. She loved animals. The only thing that people had said about her when she was a young child was that she was extremely controlling. So if she was playing with, you know, other kids and they weren't playing the way that she wanted to play, she would just take her fucking toys and go home. She's like, all right, well, fuck you guys then. You don't want to play how I want to play, so peace
but
out.
Also, like, I think that, too, that's how a lot of kids are.
Yeah.
At least that's how my kids are, so maybe I'm raising two little psychopaths.
Well.
One does have red hair, so.
Yeah. Anyway, so once she got to high school, she was still really nice, but she started to withdraw from being social. And she said that it was just, you know, depression, that she was just depressed, and that's why she didn't really want to hang out with anybody else, but it was really just because she was extremely controlling, and
nobody wanted to hang out with her.
Nobody would want to hang out with her anyway. So her love for animals got her a job at a veterinarian clinic when she was 17, and she, you know, stayed in that field up until she met Paul. She had went to a convention, I guess it was, you know, about the vet field.
Like a CE?
Yeah, like a continuing education seminar, convention sort of thing. Well, she met Paul at a hotel bar. After a drink or two, they immediately were like, all right, well, we just want to have sex with each other, so let's have a drink and then to loosen up. And then they went up to his hotel room, and he was able to, you know, live out some of his sadistic sexual fantasies with her. And she liked it. You know, she wasn't like the normal girl that he was used to being with that was scared of that behavior from him. She got off on it pretty much.
That's what she liked as well.
Yes.
Like, she liked the sadism, BDSM stuff.
She was more than willing to do anything that he wanted. You know, a lot of gross things she was willing to do. And they fell in love with each other.
How much of it was her, like, being an actual weirdo and psychopath, and how much of it was her just wanting to please him.
I'm not sure that she was actually into weird sex stuff. I think she just loved him so much and wanted to be with him. She was willing to do the weird shit in order to be with him.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. So they lived a couple hours away from each other, but he would still come to visit her really often. Paul was also 6 years older than Karla. Which, that should have been your first clue, because she's still barely 18 years old.
She's not even, like, she's not even of legal age, and she's sitting at a bar drinking, you know.
So, even though Paul was 6 years older than her, I guess it wasn't really a big deal with her family, because they really liked Paul, like, a lot. They were just as obsessed with him as she was.
Well, he's extremely, oh, you're going to cover that next.
He was a really attractive person. Both Karla and Paul were both attractive people. That's why they're called the Barbie and Ken killers, because they were attractive. And he was extremely charismatic. He was an accountant. And he seemed to treat Karla very well. And I guess that's the only thing that mattered. Maybe they weren't weirded out by the age gap.
Well, and I think she was also pretty mature for her age as well. Yeah. You know, she had plans of going to college. Right. And like continuing to work in veterinary medicine. You know, she was on the right path.
Was.
So he would come visit her all the time at her parents' house.
They would end up sleeping on the couch together. Paul, almost immediately into the relationship, became extremely controlling. Like the first week they were together. Told her how to act around other people, what to eat, how to dress. Just extremely controlling.
Yeah, like I think she wanted to get her hair cut at one point, and like he had to control what the haircut looked like. Yeah. So
everything that she did had to go through him first. He would often, you know, make fun of her and belittle her, calling her ugly and fat, which she was neither. But he would say that to her all the time to control her more. Paul was also upset that Karla was not a virgin when they met, because that was a big deal for him. Like, that was his thing. He liked fucking virgins. Sicko.
Well, he could have left. Like,
yeah, he could have left and found somebody else. But why would you leave when, you know, your girlfriend has a younger sister that you have, you know, caught the eye of and that you are now interested in? So, Karla had a younger sister named Tammy that Paul became obsessed with immediately, because she was a virgin and because he felt like that was how he was going to get what he wanted from Karla, because they were sisters. So I guess he was just assuming, you know, I can't get it from Karla, but I want to be with her, so I might as well just, you know, seek out her sister in order to get that part of her that I can't.
And it's just another way to like control
Yeah.
Karla by, if they do these horrible things, she's involved in it as well. So it's a way to control her so she doesn't rat him out.
Well, Paul started to constantly nag Karla because he wanted to take Tammy's virginity. He wanted to rape her. He talked about it constantly.
Yeah. Which is just ridiculous.
It's disgusting.
So, like we just said, he had his eyes on Tammy from the beginning and just kept going at Karla and just saying, help me rape your sister. I mean, just kept bothering her about it. So she finally gave in. And the first attempt happened when they all went out on a summer trip together in July of 1990. And Karla actually stole Valium from her work, and she laced it in Tammy's drink. So she spikes the drink, and then Paul attempts to rape her. But the drugs don't take as much of effect as they thought that they were going to. So Tammy actually started to wake up, and then they had to stop. And so after that, Paul was like extremely furious with Karla and was just yelling and was belittling her, saying it was her fault.
Yeah.
So after he was done being angry at her, he then started nagging her and saying, you know, we need to rape Tammy. So finally, December 23rd, 1990, Karla decided that was going to be her Christmas present to him, which is just so absolutely sweet, you know, whatever. So after they had dinner with the family, Tammy, Paul, and Karla all went downstairs to watch a movie together. And so Karla, well, I guess Tammy and Paul were downstairs by themselves for a little bit while Karla was making the drinks. And they were flirting with each other because, you know, she's a 15-year-old girl with this handsome guy. And, you know, they're flirting together and whatever. You know, she's acting like a normal 15-year-old child. And so Paula, see, I did it. Karl made the drinks and brought them down. But this time she used a lot more, like a different medication. And once Tammy was passed out, Karla then placed a rag doused in halothane in her mouth. And
what's halothane?
It's a gas anesthetic. So you know how like the ISO that we use at work is a liquid, and then it turns into a gas. That's the same thing. It was just an older, unsafer version. So so that's disgusting. So that's going on. That's being placed over her mouth. And if you all have ever smelled anesthetic gas before, it stinks. It's like disgusting. So I would think it's almost like one of those things where you sniff it when you pass out. You sniff it and you wake up.
The smelling salt.
Yeah, yeah. Like that to me is what those chemicals smell like, and I feel like I would wake up. So it just shows you how out Tammy was. So then Paul raped Tammy. Of course, I think we said that. But then once he was done, and while Karla was recording, when he was done, he wanted her to rape her own sister. Which is just horrible.
Which she did.
Yeah.
Willingly.
She did. She had no problem going in there. So while she was in the middle of sexually assaulting her own sister, Tammy starts to vomit. And so Paul and Karla tried to get the vomit out of her mouth, but she choked and she died. So instead of calling 911, they have to cover up, you know, the crime scene. So they take Tammy and they put her upstairs in the bedroom, and then they call 911. And so when paramedics get there, Karla's downstairs cleaning up the crime scene while her sister is already dead and is pronounced dead as soon as they get to the hospital. Like, she's just down there covering up for her boyfriend because, you know, that's what a good girl does. Sorry, it just really irritates me.
Yeah.
Obviously. So they basically got away with murder at this point because there was an autopsy done on Tammy. And they didn't really find anything except for a chemical burn on her mouth because that shit burns your skin off. And the medical examiner determined that it was from the stomach acids that she had vomited up, which, I don't know, like stomach acid sucks, but I wouldn't imagine from vomiting that much.
They made the whole thing out to be Tammy's fault. They convinced law enforcement and the other doctors and Tammy's and Karla's parents, convinced them that Tammy was just a party girl and she had mixed her alcohol with drugs and died on her own. I don't know why a rape kit was never brought into play, or why an autopsy was done on her. So
they weren't testing for drugs or anything.
You know, obviously, if an autopsy is done, you're supposed to look at the entire body. Like, why didn't they know that she was raped? Confusing.
So at this point, they got away with murder. And then afterwards, he starts to blame Karla again. Because it's her fault that she died. Well, you're the one who wanted her to fucking do it.
Yep.
You know? So then he gets even creepier, and he wants Karla to start wearing Tammy's clothes. Like, that, how fucked up is that?
That's disgusting.
It's so gross. So, you know, Karla, she's getting kind of weird. Not necessarily weirded out, but just...
jealous.
Yes.
I feel like it was more jealousy than anything.
Yes, absolutely it was. So then, after Tammy's death, Karla and Paul actually, Karla moved out of her parents' house and moved in with Paul. And at this point in time, they were engaged. So they're going to have a wonderful life together.
These two are disgusting. And the fact that she is out, we'll talk about that again in a little bit, but the fact that she is out literally makes my stomach turn. We're going to talk about the other murders now. So Leslie Mahaffey was a teenager that lived close to where Paul and Karla lived. She had missed her curfew and was locked out of the house on June 15th, 1991. Paul was driving around the neighborhood, saw her stand in front of the steps because she had been locked out of her house, and coaxed her to get into the car. That situation also bothers me because she was locked out of her house because of a stupid curfew situation, and she ended up getting fucking murdered. So I bet you those parents... I'm not gonna... No, that's wrong. That's wrong. I'm gonna take it back. I'm sorry. I am sorry for the victims' families. I don't mean...
We're gonna piss so many people
off.
off.
We are. Okay.
Damn it, Brittany.
So he was able to coax her into the car and promise of cigarettes. He blindfolded her at that point and forced her to stay in the car. He took her back to the house that he and Karla shared with each other, and he was like, "Hey, honey, brought a new toy home." Fuck them. Once back at the house, Karla had filmed Paul raping and torturing Leslie. At one point, Paul heard Karla saying to him, "You're doing a good job, Leslie, a damn good job." That's disgusting. They're like coaching this girl as she's being raped.
Yeah. Ugh. That's gross.
He then said to her, "The next 2 hours are going to determine what I do to you. And at this point, you're doing great. You're scoring perfect." The following day, one of the two killed her. Paul had said that Karla had fed her a lethal dose of sleeping medication, and Karla had said Paul had strangled her. So I actually feel like Paul is telling the truth at this point, because you have to think, before they started doing this shit together, he was the Scarborough rapist, and he was just out here raping a bunch of bitches and didn't never kill not one of them. So
all of a sudden, why is it changing now?
I think
maybe because he brought her back to the house.
I think that Karla was wanting to do whatever it took to keep her man happy. So she went along with the raping and all of that. But I feel like she would get really jealous watching her husband have sex with these other women. And I say have sex, but that's not what was happening. He was raping them. And I feel like she would get jealous. And I feel like while watching them do this, it would just fill her with so much anger and jealousy that she would just be like, we need to kill them. And I think it was her decision to start killing the victims.
Yeah.
So I 100% believe that it was her idea to kill Leslie.
Okay.
They had left her body in the basement while they had dinner with Karla's family that night. So whoever killed her, whatever one did it, after which they were like, all right, well, let's just go back to our regular life. So while this teenager's dead body is sitting in the basement of their house, they go and have dinner with Karla's family. Once they got back, they decided to cut her body into smaller pieces and put them into concrete blocks. They later disposed of those concrete blocks into Lake Gibson. Her body was discovered on June 29th in 1991 by a young boy and his father that were out fishing. She was identified by her retainer, which, if you guys don't know what that is, that's an orthodontic appliance to
keep your teeth straight.
Yeah, keep your teeth straight or make your mouth wider. I don't fucking know what it was for. I never had one.
Right. I've never had one either,
So, anyway, that's how she was identified. The next victim, Kristen French, on April 16th, 1992. So there was a bit of a gap between these victims. So it's not like they were killing somebody once a week. There was a gap.
Well, I mean, I would kind of also expect that, yeah, there needed to be a gap because you had to make sure that you weren't going to get
caught. Yeah.
You know.
But you never know. There is a lot of unsolved missing people in murder cases every year. So there's no telling if they actually had other victims in between these
that's true
crimes or not, because Paul was a sick fuck and he liked to rape a lot of people. So on April 16th, 1992, Karla and Paul were actually driving around actively looking for another victim. Together.
This is where Paula comes into play.
This is where Paula comes into play. So they saw Kristen French, that she was a student at the Holy Cross Secondary School and she was walking home from school. They pulled over and Karla got out pretending to be lost and held out a map to Kristen. So she was trying to get directions, putting on this little show, and was able to coax this girl into helping them. Paul attacked Kristen from behind, brandishing a knife, and forced her to get into the vehicle. French's routine, she had a daily routine, and it was so consistent that when she didn't drive home, that when she didn't arrive at home at the time that she normally was home, her parents immediately knew that something was wrong. So they called the police. Excuse me while I flip through my notes. Within 24 hours, the police had assembled a team and a search party to look for Kristen. They were able to find several witnesses who saw the abduction, who saw Kristen being forced into this vehicle. That gave police a better idea of where to look next and what had happened. They had found one of Kristen's shoes in a parking lot where she was abducted, so they at that point knew that something, was wrong, and it was like a countdown pretty much, and on if she was going to be found safe again or not. So on April 18th, Paul was out buying a pizza when a woman spotted him. Wait, what am I reading here? Excuse me.
He was stalking a woman and he spotted her, and she knew who he was.
Okay, so he was stalking this woman out in public, and she noticed that he was looking at her and staring at her, and she recognized him, so she called the police. Her report was mishandled, and it never went any further than that with that police report. And that following day, Kristen was murdered. So that's kind of fucked up, because if the report was handled correctly the first time and, they had been actively looking for this person in the store that was out trying to find other victims, maybe Kristen wouldn't have died.
Maybe.
But she died. Karla testified that Paul had strangled her for 7 minutes while she watched. So again, once these two people were arrested and brought in for questioning, they immediately just started fucking turning on each other. They didn't care. They were just like, she did it, he did it, he did it. They were just blaming each other. Yep. Paul had said that Karla beat her with a rubber mallet for attempting to escape. So once again, I don't think that Paul killed this girl. Yeah. I think Karla probably killed all of them. Yeah. Just my just a feeling I have. I think
she definitely played more of a role than what she's admitting to.
So I think maybe Paul had strangled these women while they were while he was raping them, and I think maybe that's why it seemed that way. But I don't think any of these women actually died from strangulation. Yeah. So. Kristen's body was found on April 30th, 1992, and it was naked. Her body had been washed off, and her hair had been cut off. So again, this brings me back to Karla, because when you're a jealous bitch...
No, I think she did that because they wanted to hide as much as, like, evidence that they could. And
okay, but why would you... I understand washing the body to wash off DNA, but why cut the hair?
To make it less recognizable as her. As the girl missing.
But that's not DNA. You can't change somebody's DNA like that. I think she was so pissed off.
No, you're not understanding what I'm saying. Like... They cut the hair so she wouldn't be, like, you know, the pictures, the missing pictures that they put up, if she's got long, pretty hair, and they cut it off, they're going to be less likely to maybe think that it was that victim. Like, well, that's what Karla said.
Yeah, I don't think so. I know that's what she said, but I think she cut these girls' hair off because she was jealous. Yeah. And she was trying to make them ugly. Because he was constantly talking about how pretty these women were and how much he wanted them and how much he wanted to rape them. And then he's going to make Karla wear their clothes. Like, I think she was so driven mad with jealousy that she killed these women, mutilated their bodies, and tried to make them ugly so they were less attractive to her husband. Yeah. But that's just my opinion. Karla said that this was to slow down the investigation.
Oh,
which we just discussed. But I don't think that's the real reason why.
Yeah. Okay. I agree. I think she did it because she was a jealous bitch. Yep. So, again, they had been, Karla and Paul both had been questioned about Paul basically being the Scarborough rapist. And, like, they were questioning him, like, they had, you know, witnesses and stuff like that. So they're thinking that he is the guy. And they also keep nagging him about, like, Tammy's death. Like, this is when it really kind of started to turn into, well, hey, let's take a closer look at Tammy's death and see what actually really happened. Yeah. And so...
continue.
Okay. So, even though the police were questioning them and they thought that, you know, Paul was a good suspect to have for, you know, these cases... Paul was able to smooth his way out of it, like smooth talk his way out of the whole thing. Like he was convinced them that he wasn't involved with it, so they let him go. So in May of 1992, Karla and Paul filed to have their name changed because they didn't want to be harassed anymore. I guess. What's the matter?
Fucking assholes.
Oh yeah, like, I'm so sorry that you have to go through that, you know, but whatever. So they changed their name to Teal, right? Is that how it's pronounced? Okay, not like Tile or something. So, this goes to show you how much of a psychopath Paul really is. He got the name from a movie called Criminal Law from the serial killer. That was the serial killer's name in that movie. Isn't that crazy? So, finally, in December of 1992, Paul's DNA sample was finally being tested. So, when these rapes occurred, you know, in the late 80s, they hadn't tested the DNA. So, it was finally being tested. And And while that's happening, on December 27th, 1992, Paul severely beat Karla with a flashlight. Like, because she displeased him somehow. I don't remember the exact reason, but she upset him somehow. And
he wanted her to wear Kristen's schoolgirl outfit.
Oh, that's what it was.
And she didn't want to do it anymore because she was already having to wear Tammy's clothes. And then when he asked her to put on this schoolgirl outfit from their last victim, that was just like the last straw for her.
Yeah. So she then goes to work a couple of days later after Christmas vacation, and she has to basically explain that these bruises that were all over her face was because it was an accident, a car accident that caused them.
We'll have to see if we can put up a picture of that because she was fucked up.
So none of her coworkers bought the story.
Nope.
Because it looked like somebody beat the crap out of her. So they actually called her parents, who then came and picked her up. So she was staying with her parents for a little while. They had convinced her to leave Paul. And so she's like, okay, I'll do it. I'm going to leave him. And she goes to the house to pick up some things. And then he's there, and they basically reconcile.
Yep.
Like, oh, everything's okay. We still love each other. We're still together. Like, what?
She's disgusting and weak.
Yeah. So they got together, and then it didn't take long because then Paul beat her again.
Yep.
And this time he beat her so much that she had to go to the hospital. Like, there's no covering this beating up. So then that's when Karla finally decided to turn Paul in for everything. She was done being abused. She was done being manipulated and just coerced into everything. She was going to turn him in. So in February of 1993, Karla interviewed with the police and, basically turned him into the Scarborough rapist. And then when Karla then later on told her aunt that Paul was the Scarborough rapist, and he had killed Kristen and Leslie and the other girl. I'm sorry, I already forgot her name.
Tammy?
No, the fourth victim.
Oh.
I guess there's only three. Yeah, I'm sorry, there's only three. Tammy is the one that I'm thinking of. And so then that is when Karla also knew that Paul was going to be saying how much she was involved. So she had to make a plea bargain, with the courts. So for her testimony,
yes.
She was going to testify against him. So she would get the lesser charge. And she actually, then only served 12 years.
Disgusting.
And is out.
Is out currently with a whole new life. Raped her own fucking sister, helped rape and murder 2 other women after that, and is just out living her free life. It's disgusting.
It's disgusting. Just, yeah.
So, for Paul's part of the trial, he was tried for the murder of Kristen and Leslie, along with all of his other Scarborough rapes cases.
Which were... I don't even know exactly how many there were.
Me neither. There was a lot.
I don't think that they actually...
No.
They probably know the true number of it.
I've heard a lot of different numbers. I've heard the number 300 thrown up before. And it's quite possible that that's an accurate number for him. Because he was disgusting.
And he was so deceiving. Like, he almost got caught by police a couple of times. And he was able to talk his way out of it.
Oh, yeah. And before, when we were talking about it took so long for them to run the DNA, that's not because they didn't have the DNA. They had Paul's DNA the whole time. And they never ran it.
Nope.
So, he was convicted on September 1st, 1995 of 2 first-degree murders, 2 aggravated sexual assaults. He was sentenced to life in prison without the chance of parole for 25 years. So since then, Paul has been he was in the news I don't know if it's recently, but it's been at least the last couple of years. He went up for parole. It took them like, what, 9 minutes to deliberate, and they were like, no, motherfucker, go back. You're not getting out yet. You're not ever getting out. And he better not ever get out, because he will continue to rape.
He will. He certainly will.
I don't know if he'll ever murder somebody again, because I've said it multiple times in this video that I think Karla is the one that did the murdering, and that was her idea. So if he got out, I'm not sure if he would actually murder anybody, but he would most definitely still rape. So,
but why isn't he turning on Karla?
Oh, he did. He turned in all the tapes.
But like
all the tapes, because they recorded every single one of their rapes and murders, and once he was already convicted, like, he turned in. He told them where all the tapes were at.
And I thought that they just found them. I didn't know that he had turned them in.
I think he told them where they were at, because they were hidden.
Oh.
And it definitely showed on the tapes that Karla was a lot more involved in the crimes than she ever admitted, and still won't cop to any of this. So, bitch is lucky she's living in another country right now.
Yeah, so I guess she's in the news because she's either getting a name change or was wanting a name change or had to move something. I don't remember.
Her first name is still Karla, but her last name is
on Wikipedia it still says Teal.
Yeah.
But it might say something else. I'm not 100% sure.
Well, she remarried and has 3 kids. Out there living her free life. It's disgusting. I hope she sees her sister in her sleep.
I hope,
I hope that her sister haunts her.
Yeah, it's just, that's just sad.
It's really sad.
It's sad that to do that to somebody, but then it's even worse that it's your own sister.
It's your blood, like.
Yeah, like that just is.
It's sick.
It is sick.
It's sick. She's a sick person that should not be out free.
Yeah.
So, that's that.
That's our Barbie and Ken story for you tonight. Sorry, kind of all over the place. It's been a while since we recorded, guys.
I know.
So
I do like our shirts tonight, though.
We did not plan this.
We did not plan this.
My favorite movie of all time.
Well, I wouldn't say that Jaws is my favorite movie of all time, but
no.
I like this shirt.
Well, so. I bought this shirt because this movie is my favorite movie of all time.
That's a nice shirt. And they match, too. They're like complement each other.
Yeah, exactly. I like
it.
The simple things amaze us.
Yeah.
All right. Hopefully, it won't be 2 months before we record again. So.
We'll be, not next week, but we'll be back the week after that. Maybe.
It'll be your fault this time.
I know. It always is, pretty much.
Yeah, well, that's because you live in the middle of nowhere.
I do.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Oh, wait, this is Murder Mukbang Show. You kill them.
We grill them.
Okay, bye.
Bye.